Hey, it's Stephanie Pruitt. It is day 28 of 30 by 30 by 30, where I'm writing 30 poems in 30 days in relation to works at the 30 Americans exhibit. And today I drafted a poem in relation to Iona Rozeal Brown's, excuse me, Iona Rozeal Brown's Untitled. It is untitled, but after Kikugawa's Izan's For You Nana Komachi, or the Modern Seven Komachis. This was a work created in 2007. It is acrylic and paper on wooden panel. Iona Rozeal Brown was born in 1966 in Washington, D.C., where she currently lives and works. And her works are this really interesting conversation between Asian, most specifically Japanese culture, and Black urban, and whether urban means a racial designation or a geographic location for you, but Black urban culture, or more, maybe we should say hip hop culture. So there are often, or in the pieces that are in the 30 Americans exhibit that I saw, there are these women who are kind of a mashup between the, maybe I'll say stereotypical kind of geisha woman and the artwork that we've often seen with women in kind of leisure poses, often in a kimono. And so it's a mashup between a geisha woman, or what we expect to be a geisha, and a Black kind of hip-hop styled woman. So long nails. You see in that kind of mishmash in the hairstyles, like part, cornrow, pard, traditional Asian, very specifically coiffed hair. Let me read the draft of the poem and I'll talk about it a little bit more. This is a very short, it's called an unhaiku. Unhaiku. And I'm also thinking about the subtitle, But We Don't Love Them Though, from the kind of a riff off of the Gin and Juice song with Snoop Dogg. Anyway, all right, an unhaiku. This ink dark moon where cornrows and kimonos reign in men's dreams of hoes. So it's a very short one, an unhaiku. This ink dark moon where cornrows and kimonos reign in men's dreams of hoes. So a haiku in its American form is considered 3 lines, a total of 17 syllables. First line 5 syllables, second line 7, third line 5 syllables. A traditional haiku actually was not lineated in that way, and it was measured more on the in breath, out breath versus counting syllables. So it doesn't exactly translate in tradition. And I will say I am not an expert in writing haiku. I think of poets like Michael Afaa Weaver and many other contemporary poets who have truly studied the history and the culture and write some of the most masterful haiku I've ever read. But I was thinking of a few things. The artist's note states in some of the notes next to the artwork in the exhibit that she was very interested in this kind of cultural historical moment where she saw many women in Asian countries mimicking by style of dress and kind of aesthetics this Black culture, Black hip hop culture. So in a lot of the works, she is taking, what would typically be a very pale white makeup on the women and actually putting them in blackface or brown face. And again, this kind of mixed mash of cultures. This is interesting to me now when I think about this year specifically, 2013. There have been so many images in the media of people dressing up, like playing another identity, whether it was for Halloween or other performances or just thinking it's a joke. So, I won't even give attention to specific examples of it because it's really awkward, really odd, I'll say. But this idea of playing another identity in a way that's not taken seriously and not done respectfully and done out of context most often. Now, sometimes I do think we're just way too sensitive and so worried about political correctness that we ignore humanity. And this is not that kind of statement. This isn't saying that you cannot connect with other cultures and appreciation, but appreciation and appropriation are two very different things. And I'm sure we can all think of many examples in modern culture where cultures or individuals have appropriated aspects of another group's identity without really understanding the whole experience. So I was thinking about that partially, but I was also thinking about the objectification in a sexualized way of women, and how often Asian women and Black women have been sexually objectified in kind of similar categories. These very wanton ideas of women for pleasure, often the other woman, whether that's as a geisha, which I think is misunderstood in our culture, and thinking about the difference between a courtesan and a prostitute and a hoe, and all of them in my mind kind of troublesome ways of living, not the ideal that I would want for myself or any woman I care about, which is really all women. But anyway, how sexually Black women and Asian women have been fetishized, I guess, in similar ways. So I was thinking about that, and there's actually a collection of poems that I really, really love called Ink Dark Moon. And they are two Japanese women poets who were writing many, many years ago about life as a courtesan, and they're so beautifully rendered, these images of longing and affection, and just a really, I imagine, a wrought way of living. So immediately when I saw Brown's work, I thought about Ink Dark Moon and how that translates to other women's experiences. So just a lot happening in the two images and ideas of culture and who owns what. Like, who's to say that a Black woman shouldn't wear a kimono? Who's to say a Japanese woman shouldn't have cornrows? And I don't think there's just those kind of rules that we try to put in place in terms of who defines and who owns and who is a part of certain culture are slippery at best. But I do very consciously think about the difference between appreciation and appropriation. And so even with the draft of the poem I wrote, the unhaiku, I was intentionally playing with the idea of appropriation, like me, a Black American poet, writing a haiku. And this was not actually a haiku. It's like a faux-ku, F-A-U-X, like a faux-ku, because sure, on the surface, it has the right number of lines, has the right number of syllables, but part of the understanding of what a haiku truly is that it's image-based, not leaning on metaphor or simile. And the draft that I wrote leans very heavily on the metaphor or simile, especially with cornrows and kimonos and kind of the symbolism that you wouldn't see in a traditional haiku. So like this unhaiku or faux-ku is very aware of it kind of attempting to appropriate a form that it's not doing properly. And I think that's what the artwork is discussing and asking us to consider. What is legitimately Japanese? What is legitimately Black? Is there even a such thing as something being legitimately, within a certain culture and belonging to a certain people? And is it really just more of a melting pot or a tossed salad or whatever symbol you like to apply to culture and cultures? I don't know, interesting though. But I am really interested in this faux-ku, something that is aware of its inability to be authentic. So there we go. All right, it's day 28. It's the actual 23rd of the month, so you see the 23 there. And tomorrow you'll look out for the number 24. Take care.